8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by J. Yogaraj and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. Minister of Health cautions that the next 2 weeks could be crucial for Sri Lankans. Revised guidelines issued for public activities in response to COVID-19. GC advanced level examination results will be released next week. Confirmed COVID cases exceed 99,000 with 796 new patients. State Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara alleges that the officers of the CID were used by the previous Yahapalana government for corruptive, illegal and criminal activities. In news overseas, India COVID crisis, hospitals buckle under a record surge. And in sports news, Sri Lanka makes a bold reply to Bangladesh's huge total. Those were the headlines, and now more to the details of the local news. Minister Pavitra Vannayarachi cautioned that the next 2 weeks could be crucial for Sri Lankans. Therefore, the minister requests the general public to strictly follow the health guidelines without fail. The minister also requested the religious leaders to conduct religious observances to protect the Sri Lankans from the COVID-19 pandemic. The new variant found in the country is being tested whether it is similar to the variant found in India, the minister added. The government today published the revised guidelines with regard to public activities in response to COVID-19. Pandemic situation in the country is subject to change from time to time, and the level of activity permitted and the number of people engaged in these functions will need to be changed, according to the document issued by the State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemic and COVID Disease Control, Dr. Sudarshani Fernandopulle. The revised guidelines will be effective until the 31st of May. Health authorities have introduced the alert level system based on an understanding of public and work settings in Sri Lanka. Alert level 1. Cases reported are only those coming from outside the country, detected in quarantine and no clusters. Alert level 2. 1 cluster of cases. Alert level 3. Several clusters in different districts. Alert level 4. Cases are appearing with no connection to any cluster, that is, community transmission. As identified the Ministry of Health, Sri Lanka is currently at Alert Level 3. Accordingly, higher education centres, including universities and tuition classes, will remain closed at this level. However, schools, preschools and daycare centres will operate with a 50% of the capacity. In the meantime, indoor and outdoor parties or events, public gatherings, children's parks, carnivals, musical shows, beach parties, swimming pools, casinos, nightclubs, spas, day rooms and homestays will not be allowed to operate. Supermarkets, shopping malls, financial institutions such as banks, finance companies, pawning centres, etc., restaurants, dining in, clothing or textile shops, grocery stores, open markets, economic centres, bakeries, barbers and beauty salons, furniture, electrical and hardware stores, laundries, tailors and dressmakers, communication, photocopy shops, courts, gymnasiums and indoor sports halls, betting centres, hotels, rest houses, guest houses can function up to 50% of the capacity, or customers that could be accommodated while adhering to the given instructions. Places of worship are not allowed to carry out collective activities or gatherings except for weddings with the permitted number of participants as per the given instructions. Number of devotees at any given time should be restricted to a maximum of 50 people. Weddings can be held with a maximum number of 150 guests, and the funerals, except for COVID-related deaths, may be attended by a maximum of 25 persons. Meanwhile, health sector, government officers, private sector officers, and utility services, that's electricity, water, telecommunication, fuel stations, gas stations, motor garages, tire services, postal services, and courier services can function with a minimum possible number of employees to maintain the service requirements. Restaurants providing takeaway and delivery services and wine stores are allowed normal operations with strong adherence to health protocols. Public transportation services are permitted to transport passengers only up to the seating capacity of the bus or the train. Meanwhile, the private taxi services can function with the maximum number of passengers being limited to 2 for cars and the 3-wheelers. For other types of vehicles, only seated passengers are allowed to be transported. The Health Ministry said that these guidelines are supported by the guidelines issued earlier. This is a news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
HDFC Smart Goals. All it takes is 3 years.
And we continue with more local news. A total number of 796 more persons were tested positive for COVID-19 in Sri Lanka today as the confirmed cases count topped the grim milestone of 99,000. Epidemiology unit's data showed that the overall novel coronavirus infections detected in the island since the outbreak of the pandemic now stands at 99,518. Meanwhile, the recoveries from the virus infection reached 94,036 earlier today. According to the statistics, 4,848 active cases are still under medical care at designated hospitals and treatment centers. Sri Lanka has also witnessed 634 fatalities due to the outbreak of the pandemic. State Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara alleges that the officers of the CID were used by the previous Yahapalana government for corruptive, illegal and criminal activities. The main objective of the previous Yahapalana rulers was to take revenge on the opposition members, especially the well-wishers, supporters and family members of the Rajapaksa family. This is well evident through the way the previous Yahapalana rulers arrested the opposition members. The previous government harassed the supporters of the Mahinda Rajapaksa family in a brutal way. This was done in a systematic way to corner the political opponents. State Minister Wijayasekara also alleged that the Rajapaksa supporters from all sectors, including three forces and media, were harassed. The State Minister made these remarks while addressing the Parliament today. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. Minister of Health cautions that the next 2 weeks could be crucial for Sri Lankans. Revised guidelines issued for public activities in response to COVID-19. GC advanced level examination results will be released next week. Confirmed COVID cases exceed 99,000 with 796 new patients. State Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara alleges that the officers of the CID were used by the previous Yahapalana government for corruptive, illegal and criminal activities. And that was the local news.
Darling, our daughter has top O-level results. Do you know what this means?
Yes, just 3 years and she'll be going abroad for her degree.
For which we'll need a bank loan.
But is a normal loan the smartest option?
What else?
The smartest way is to start an HDFC Smart Goals account.
Let your child begin their degree with no delays. Start an HDFC Smart Goals account. Call 2356 888.
Honey, you're so smart.
HDFC Smart Goals. All it takes is 3 years.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for tonight, Commissioner General of Examinations Sanath Pujita says that the results of the GC Advanced Level Examination will be released next week. Marking of papers has been completed. The assessment of grading and result sheets will be released during the next few days, the examination chief added. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And in Watchlight tonight, the commuters complain that the long-distance buses are not available after 8 p.m. Only few buses are available to some selected destinations. This has caused immense difficulties to the commuters travelling from the city limits to outside districts. This is for the attention of the Western Province Passenger Transport Authority. And that came to you in Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of
the best discount in this Urdu season, People's Leasing Polybasi. Enjoy an interest rebate of 25% from People's Leasing for all the leasing facilities during this Urdu season. Call 011-206-300 for more details. Conditions apply.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Headlines of the world news. India COVID crisis. Hospitals buckle under record surge. Coronavirus reaches world's tallest peak. US joins race to find the stricken Indonesian submarine. Those are the headlines, and now more to the details of the world news. India's healthcare system is buckling as the record surge in COVID-19 cases puts pressure on hospital beds and drains oxygen supplies. Families are left pleading for their relatives who are desperately ill, with some patients left untreated for hours. Crematoriums are organizing mass funeral pyres. Today, India reported 332,730 new cases of coronavirus, setting a world record for the second day running. Deaths were numbered at 2,263 in 24 hours. At least one climber on Mount Everest has tested positive for COVID-19 just weeks after the world's tallest peak reopened for climbers following a year of closure. Norwegian climber Earl Nees was isolated in hospital for 8 hours due to the virus, he told the BBC. Reporters say a Sherpa in his party also tested positive for the virus. The outbreak is a blow to Nepal, which relies heavily on income generated from Everest expeditions. The U.S. military is sending airborne assistance to aid Indonesia's search for a missing submarine with 53 crew. Indonesian authorities estimate that they have just hours left to find the Navy submarine before the oxygen runs out. The KRI Nanggala 402 disappeared on Wednesday during an exercise off the coast of Bali, sparkling a frantic search to locate the stricken vessel. And to conclude the world news, the headlines once again. India COVID crisis, hospitals buckle under a record surge. Coronavirus reaches world's tallest peak. US joins race to find stricken Indonesian submarine. And that was the world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of
the best discount in this Urdu season. People's Leasing Polybasi. Enjoy an interest rebate of 25% from People's Leasing for all the leasing facilities during this Urdu season. Call 011 206 300 for more details. Conditions apply.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
In development news, the government has taken effective measures to bring down a sophisticated high-graded PCR machine to identify the varieties of coronavirus variants. This will help the government to identify the variety of variant and will enable the relevant officials to work accordingly. It is reported that the new variant is found in 5 different places in the country. That was the development news, and we move on to sports news. Sri Lanka were 229 for the loss of 3 wickets at the end of the third day's play of the first test match against Bangladesh being played at Pallekele, Kandy. Earlier, Bangladesh declared their innings at 541 for the loss of 7 wickets. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
In business news, HSBC today announced the rollout of a sustainable payment card made from 85% recycled plastic in Sri Lanka. The new cards with a vertical design will be initially issued to HSBC's premier customers in April and subsequently to all other credit and debit card holder customers later this year. The rollout is a part of a new program launched by the bank to introduce sustainable payment cards across all its global locations. By the end of the year 2026, HSBC will be eliminating single-use PVC plastic in favor of recycled PVC plastic. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic News. Courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And in economic news, the Public Debt Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is to have an auction for the issuance of Sri Lanka development bonds from yesterday to the 28th of April. The issuance will look to raise up to $750 million and the tenures available will be 9 months, 1 year and 3 months, 2 years, 3 years and 3 years and 9 months. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And finally, the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the central, Uva and southern provinces in the evening. Few showers may occur in the western province and in the Gaul and Mathura districts during the morning hours too. The Republic is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. This weather report was published this evening at 7:30 p.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. That was the weather report, and before we conclude this bulletin of news, let's get back to the headlines once again. Minister of Health cautions that the next 2 weeks could be crucial for Sri Lankans. Revised guidelines issued for public activities in response to COVID-19. GC advanced level examinations will be released next week. Confirmed COVID-19 cases exceed 99,000 with 796 new patients. State Minister constitute illegal and criminal activities. In news overseas, India COVID crisis, hospitals buckle under a record surge. And in sports news, Sri Lanka makes a bold reply to Bangladesh's huge total. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And now it's back to your Friday evening host and my good friend Victor Raj to keep you entertained this wet Friday evening.